Hello, everyone. Joined by Melissa Mays. I always called her the Water Warrior, the Water Warrior. What are you fighting for? Is that the official group?
Yeah, that was the group that we started in January of 2015. And my husband's an artist, so we came up with a creative name, but it wasn't anything we were going to use for permanent. It was just going to be, a website and Facebook group and Twitter just for a portal of accurate information for residents. We had no idea that we'd be rolling on 10 years and having to use it as an official group.
10 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So I grew up in Michigan, but I don't work in the media, mainstream media anymore. I worked at NBC 25. I came there in 2015. I came there in April of 2015. And I remember then I was looking for stories and people were contacting me, you needed the water. But my management, they would not touch the story. No one would touch the story. And I was getting frustrated because I was always trained as a reporter, question your officials, dig for stories. But the management at the time, they wouldn't let me pursue it. I think it changed Dr. Mona, that news conference, that changed everything, didn't it? That's when it felt like it changed.
Well, we had done the testing. We had done so many marches. We had done so many protests. We had done widespread testing. We brought in Virginia Tech. They sent us the test kits. We sent back 277 test results in a 2-week period, test kits. And that was little blips here and there.
It felt like the media, I don't want to interrupt, but it felt like the media didn't buy in. And a lot of times with the media, you have to have the official big news conference for it. There was so much going on, even when I got there in April of 2015, that should have been reported then, right? I mean, I heard it from everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, we had already proven, because when Aaron Brockovich and Bob Bocock had come to Flint, they're the ones that told us in February of 2015 that we needed to start testing for lead because Bob knew that there was something going on with corrosion control. He never gets the credit, but, and I started sending him monthly operational reports and raw water data that I was getting as a student at the water treatment plant. And he was analyzing, explaining to me everything science-wise that comes out of my mouth. He taught me starting in January of 2015. And so we had all these things. We had tested, we had marched, we put a What Are You Fighting For shirt on right about the time you got there on the Crim statue. It actually stayed up for a few days. July of 2015, we had marched from Detroit to Flint. We did a 70-mile water justice journey, stopping at all the cities along the way. That was huge. And that was when we landed in Flint. That's when former Mayor Dan Walling drank the water on TV and said it was great. And that was and that's also when, Brad Werfel from Michigan DEQ, now Eagle, had said the people of Flint can relax. There is no widespread lead problem. But we had already been going door to door. So, but the problem is that the mainstream media at that time were treating us like we were bored housewives, and that
I think they were afraid. The behind the scenes, they're definitely afraid of being sued or losing their connections to the governor, the state, the city. And that's not how it used to be. Back in the day, I'm almost 50 years old. Back in the day, our reporters were told to challenge government, go after them. So I think they were afraid to broach it because are we going to piss off the state? Are we going to piss off the mayor? Who are we going to piss off? But I remember a tone switched when Dr. Mona had that news conference. It was like the okay for everyone to cover it then.
And it was unfortunate because all the things that she said, she took our water testing and compared it to the blood test results that was already there, and in the computers, and she found a complete overlay of the zip codes and wards where we'd found the highest lead and water test with the lead and blood. But she actually got up there and gave us all credit at that time. She said, if it wasn't for the activists, this wouldn't happen. And the thing is the problem was laying there, but nobody would believe us. Nobody would listen to us. And, even though we were showing all these tests, independent tests, state testing through the state's own testing, but then they were covering it up. We had the ACLU of Michigan helping us with FOIAs. I mean, we had independent media. Like in March of 2015, I snuck a New York Times reporter, and we're actually still good friends, into one of the meetings that showed how bad the state, the emergency manager, Gerald Ambrose at the time, were just downplaying us, screaming in our faces, kicking residents out of the meetings who were asking questions. And, so we were able to get little bits and pieces of independent or international, especially international journalism. But then locally, and we actually had a local reporter who I'm not going to say who came up and said, okay, if we cover your press conference, we're told that we will get no more access to the governor. So we can't. And I'm like, oh my, okay, well, we're just trying to keep people safe here. So then the residents, we had to resort going to door, knocking on 37,000 doors to get people, the information that they needed. Because like the government, and people don't realize how strong the media bubble is here, because how strong the government hold is. And so, and how much money, of course, our tax dollars, that the state government has as a PR machine, and even if we did get bits and pieces in the media, like they would come back with this huge, well, nope, this is why. And then they would attack the person that was delivering it, because they did the same to Dr. Mona. And they, they attacked her character and all this. And then she's just like, I'm a pediatrician. What are you talking about? I'm not an activist. I'm not this, that, whatever, and she and I are friends, and I have to every once in a while give her the lowdown on being an activist. It's not always you don't get always the love and the support that you deserve. And luckily she did have, Dr. Reynolds stood by her and everything. And so she did have a support system. And finally they're like, well, now it's in children's blood. I mean, it always was. So now we should probably care, because now it's embarrassing. And the state slowballed it. And they're like, well, you can use your EBT card to buy bottled water. We're not going to switch the water. So then we had this massive protest after that. So it was always us being on edge and having to react, and then trying to get people. And honestly, it didn't really break out internationally until former Mayor Karen Weaver declared the state of emergency. And then people were like, wait a second, this means something's really going on. It's not just a bunch of poor people wanting something for free. And then it was like, oh my goodness, look how sad this is. And then of course, right around that time, the Times Magazine story came out with Little Sincere on the cover. So it was just like, okay, what do we have to do? And unfortunately, it's been very difficult in a very desensitized world. What do we have to do to break through to get people to care that human beings are suffering? But not only here, but it can and may very well happen to you and in your family. And how do you get that without people, once again being like, oh, you're a fear monger, oh, you're a rabble rouser, and all the other slew of creative nicknames I've been called. But rabble rouser is my favorite, and that's the PG version. But other than that, I'm like, look, I just want my water fixed. I want my water not to hurt me anymore, and I don't want anybody else to be sick and dying over this. We've lost too many good people. And they're like, oh, you just want attention, you want your 15 minutes of fame. I'm like, man, I just don't want to be sick anymore. Like, seriously.
Pretty simple
what
as
fame
that.
do you get? There's no fame for being poisoned. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm poisoned. And then what the people do to pick through to you, it's like, oh, I don't like your makeup. I don't like your hair. I'm like,
oh, I'm used to that.
like, oh, by the way, I don't like your shirt. Dave, what shirt are you wearing? How dare you?
I say to heck with them. Okay, so I wanted to bring you on to talk about that also, because I haven't talked to you since I left the TV station, but where are we at now? People ask me when I go out of state, and they still ask you or whatever. It's a simple question. Is the water safe? But it's not probably a simple answer.
It is a simple answer, but the people who are responsible are making it overly complicated. They have since the beginning. Basically, the answer is no. Is our water safe? No, because it's being shipped to us. It's being distributed to us through corroded pipes, contaminated infrastructure, and our fixtures, our faucets, our appliances are all still corroded, releasing these toxins in. I mean, we could have, I say, like the Lord's perfect spring water being piped to us, but it's being piped through these pipes, in the streets where it's rupturing. Our mains are rupturing, and then the service lines aren't replaced yet, and it was supposed to be done in 2020, and then the interior plumbing hasn't been touched. So no, there's no way, shape, or form that anybody could even say that the water is safe, because it's so unstable.
But the EPA says it's safe, right?
Well, they say that it's getting better. They try to dance around that safety thing, and they then what they end up doing is handing it over. Because when in 2021 I discovered by accident that that this current mayor was going to start blending our water with the Karagandhi Water Authority, which is again the whole background of this crisis to begin with, but to blend it. And so we went to the EPA, and they're like, okay, we don't know much of what's going on here. The state approved, of course, because the state hasn't met a permit they haven't approved and loved. They approved it. There was no testing done ahead of time. There's no regulations for blending. So here we're stuck. And then the water quality went even worse. The lead levels went up. Everything was unstable. Then we started having the Legionnaires outbreaks every summer. We have bacteria. All of a sudden the mains are rupturing on record numbers. And, lead levels, we had somebody back in July, they had over 14,000 parts per billion of lead, and
Well, that's what I want to
5,000.
ask. Is the testing, there is testing still going on, right?
Yes, because the lawsuit is ongoing. So my lawsuit is still ongoing. And it says in our settlement for the pipe replacement that you get free water testing. Of course it's through the state. So there you go. But you get it for free twice every 6 months until 1 year past the last service line being replaced, which still isn't done. And it was supposed to be done in 2020, but then we've had to go back to court. So we've had to hold the city of Flint in contempt. We've asked the judge to hold the mayor and the city administrator in contempt because they're violating the judge's orders. But also we've had to hold them in violation of the settlement agreement 5 times now. And the state, who used to jump on the city and rip them apart and say, hey, they're not doing, we're going to hold them in violation. Basically, we had a hearing over Zoom, during the height of the pandemic. And the state attorney was just like, well, the city of Flint's doing the best they can. That's all we can really ask for. And everybody, including the judge, all of our faces were like, no, because they weren't even testing right. They weren't, they're ignoring people who are asking for their service line to be replaced. They're saying that they're making 60 appointments for excavations a week, and 40 of those aren't showing up to their own homes to get the pipe replaced that they've been asking for. It's just, it's like,
wow.
They're blaming on the people. 100%.
I had no idea that it was still a mess that it is. And is city council still sitting on millions and millions of dollars? Just they can't agree on is that still they're
for ARPA? Yeah, the ARPA dollars. Yeah, because the mayor wants to do it behind closed doors. And certain members of city council are like, no, this should be out in the open so people can see where the money's going. And the mayor's like, I want the money to go here. But there's so much money that's gone towards private companies and all this stuff. And we're like, we need water heaters, and we have people getting their water shut off. I just had to pay a $560 water bill shut off because, it's me. So anytime I miss a payment because of Christmas.
Oops. Yeah, you're targeted.
Yeah. So, and then, the rest of us, so we're getting all these giant water bills. People's pipes are, so we're asking for, the American Rescue Plan Act was not to help rescue companies, corporations that aren't even from Flint, to clean up the contaminated brownfield sites that General Motors left without cleaning. So we're like, why is my money going to that? No, I want people to have safe drinking water. But then this mayor has come in saying, everything's great since the beginning, and he won't say anything different, which is why he is, the state's a little darling, in my personal opinion, because he doesn't push back. And, and I just, it's so frustrating because he doesn't show up to meetings, hearings. He doesn't show up unless there's like cameras or celebrities popping up. And then he outright says untruths, because he's saying, oh, nope, we met the settlement agreement in 2021. I'm like, no, you did nothing. We had to threaten to sue you again.
Yeah. Well, now he's running for Congress, right? He's running for Congress.
I thought it was a joke until I was reading, it's been a chaotic past week or so. And I'm like, this is for real. And
he's going to face a lot of criticism. He has a lot of baggage that.
Right. So I'm just like, but you've done nothing to help the residents, not as a state rep, let alone when you were on city council and putting that video out about how great the Flint River is and our water treatment plant is. And then as mayor, you've done nothing but get in the way of progress. And it's just like, I'm sitting here like, I'm tired of like hearing your name, having to go to court, having to take off work to take you back to court again and again and again. We didn't have this big of a problem when the settlement agreement first started, and we learned a lot. There was a lot we didn't know, and we came across. So we were back and forth in court. Plus, we were fighting the state at that time. We were dealing with like CORE and all these other programs that were running within the settlement. Now it's, there were over 27,000 holes dug by the end of 2019. So when he took office at the end of 2019, there was 27,000. That's starting in 2017 to the end of 2019. Since then, there's been maybe 2,000. Maybe.
I got to ask you, and I think I know the answer, but I'm almost certain I know the answer. Do you and the people of Flint not only not trust Republicans or Democrats, you just don't trust any of them, it sounds like?
Well, and the thing is, unless they've shown that they're for the people, it doesn't matter what party you subscribe to, because we feel in our guts that we've been betrayed. Obviously, the Republican Party, under Snyder, they're the ones that put us under emergency management. They're the ones that lied and covered it up. However, we had a Democratic attorney general toss all the criminal charges in the trash just simply because we still don't have a reason why nobody's sitting behind bars, or at least living in Flint without a filter. I thought that would be a fair punishment. Yeah. The governor right now, she came in saying that she was going to reopen the pods. She got shut down, and then the fight ended. but then we had like, Mayor Weaver fought for us, as much as she was not a politician, and, that's a surprise. But then we've got people, our mayor, and people are like, that's what you get for voting Democrat. And I'm like, well, our mayoral election is nonpartisan. And if you look, the current mayor who ran as a Democrat, because, you should probably do that, but he got a lot of funding from GOP PACs out of DC.
Wow.
So if you're looking at all this stuff, and the things he's doing is saying, well, the government shouldn't have to fix this. I'm like, well, now you sound like a libertarian. But then he's all for helping companies out over people. And I'm like, what are you? So yeah, so basically it's we've been betrayed by all of them.
So I don't think I watched Governor Whitmer's State of the State address. I don't think Flint water was mentioned at all.
No, I don't think so either. I couldn't hang on. And the thing is that we had such high hopes. We had, a Democratic government, but our thing was that we were promised all these things. We were promised justice for Flint. We were promised that the testing would be looked into, and that the state would have their hand, that they would do more. And so, and then also too, the changing of the guard on the presidential. We knew in 2016, we knew, even if Trump wasn't a Republican, we knew with his, how he loves business, that we were not going to get help because, profit over people all the way, right? And also his first thing was to freeze the EPA funding, which held up money to us and everybody who needed it, and then trying to get rid of the EPA and Clean Water Act. I'm like, well, that doesn't bode well for us. But we're like, well, we got, new governor, and we've got, as time went on, we're like, okay, there's possibilities, there's, things, and then we've been let down over and over and over again. And, I got in trouble because I did an interview.
No.
Oh yeah. March of 2020, I was on camera, and I was at a Bernie Sanders rally, and people were up there speaking about the water and what needed to happen still. And he had, residents on a panel up there. And I had said that there was, rumor of this virus, this respiratory virus, killing people across the world. And we're 100,000 immunocompromised, immuno-altered, immuno-changed people in Flint. Can somebody please come help us? And also, can we not make this political? Because that's what happened in Flint. And then I went into detail about how the Republicans, at least they said, we don't care about you. Go ahead and die. Stop bothering us. We don't want to spend any money on you. And looking us straight in the face while saying this. But then we had Democrats saying, don't worry, we're gonna go ahead and help you. But the two parties are shaking each other's hand behind our backs. So we, again, both across both the aisle, both sides have failed Flint and every other poison community as it's going. And I'm happy we were able to help in Benton Harbor and get a stop to that. But basically it was Whitmer didn't want to look like Snyder. And that's great political pressure. And at least they got help, and they're getting more help than us. And we are so happy to have signed on and got the attorneys in. We got over there, found out what was going on, and we're happy for them. But we're also like,
what about
Flint? Hey, and then same thing, we helped push for the infrastructure bill, and there's a lot of people that's going to benefit. But we're also like, hey, and this current mayor didn't even request any infrastructure bill money.
Well, I know I was in Flint last week. I ran into a lot of people, and just average people were like, okay, Ukraine needs help, but we need some help too.
And that's the thing, is like, there's no reason why it can't be both. Like, people are like, oh no, we got to help Ukraine. And yes, okay, like anywhere. And that's the thing. If we are human beings, anywhere where there's human beings suffering, we should help in ways that we should, not by, going and bombing people continually. Like, the people in Gaza need help. Oh my God, there's innocent people. Where innocent people are suffering, we should be able to help if we can. But also, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that people in our own country are suffering at such a high rate. And just be like, oh, and that's the thing. It's like, a lot of people say, well, we didn't realize Flint was still suffering. You're in America. You should have been fixed by now. I'm like, oh, I know.
Yeah. And it's kind of, got people I was talking to, like, it's a slap in the face. They keep saying Ukraine, give them money, but Flint still, but that's
we're
a whole
right
other.
Here, and we're innocent people, because again, the people of Flint didn't do this to ourselves. We didn't ask for this. We had no democracy. We had no say. Our elected officials, good or bad, didn't have any say here locally. And since then, it's been a constant fight to get them to focus on humans. And we've made our demands what we need and what we deserve in Flint, which is all of the damaged infrastructure replaced by Flint hands. We shouldn't have anybody unemployed during a water crisis. But also, you break it, you buy it. It's what we were taught as kids, right? And in stores, everything from the water treatment plant up into every single tap in every home needs to be replaced by those guilty parties. But the people who are responsible for, even if you weren't in office at the time and didn't do it, It doesn't matter. We're your constituents. Fix it. Fix it under your watch. And what a hero. And that's the thing is like, man, Neely could have looked like a huge hero had the water crisis and the pipes been replaced. I mean, it's not the only thing. Service lines are not the only part that needs to be done. Yeah. But under his watch, so it just blows my mind from a PR standpoint. Like, why wouldn't you want to be this huge hero? Instead, you're a hero to the state, and saying, hey, we don't have to pay for these lines, if they don't get replaced.
What, so that is the perfect, what needs to be done. It sounds like it's still a mess. What are the people, now I know why they don't trust anybody, basically.
Yep.
Does this, when I left the station, the city were they recommending you still have a filter on all of the water? Is that,
so
no? What happened with all that?
Basically, we forced them to say that because every bit of science says, well, construction's going on, you should. Now we've got this mayor going to community meetings saying filters are just for comfort. Get one if you want.
Really? So that's what he's saying now.
That's what he's saying now. Filters no, they're not just for comfort, because anything that happens, lanes breaking, pipes being replaced, big trucks, weather changes, it's going to shake up the existing contaminants, especially the lead that still remains in our system. And it just blows my mind. So then I went to it was supposed to be this water summit. And he gets up there and says this, and I'm recording it right in front of my attorneys from the Natural Resources Defense Council, and their jaws dropped. They're like, that's not scientifically accurate. That's not with a public health lens. That's wrong. It's not a comfort thing, because he's acting like, oh, it's just our trauma. We also are very smart, and we know if good water, even if it was good, which it's blended, it's a mess, but whatever. Let's take that out of it. If good water's coming through these crumbling pipes, it's not going to be safe. And I'm just sitting here like, you're endangering people's lives.
What's it going to take to get on board? Because hearing this, people aren't going to want to come to Flint. I mean, it's just a mess. You have city council, people literally laughing at times at what's going on in government, that people are watching city council as entertainment. In the mayor's office, no one knows what's going to take to get it on board. Anything? I mean, the crap's been going on for so long.
So I think that a lot of things that's been happening across the board, like federally, even if you look at the people who have run for office that are just a train wreck, we've made it okay to laugh and make these elected officials, people in Congress and the Senate and in the state rep house, the state Senate, to be a joke. And the thing is people don't realize how much impact like these jokes have on your life.
It's real life.
And that's the thing, is like people are dying because they politicized the Flint water crisis. They politicized COVID. I mean, honestly, if we took a look and took a step back, how simple these things are. COVID is a virus. It's gross. It's yucky. Okay. All right. Let's get people healthcare. Let's not make this a political thing. Let's not make a piece of fabric or cloth or paper on your face a political thing. Let's not cough in each other's faces on purpose. Let's not weaponize this. Same thing with Flint water. Like, we didn't vote. That water has no political affiliation whatsoever, but it can and will cause harm. And so, the virus, the bug, it's like, why is this a political thing? They don't vote. So, and the same thing's happening with East Palestine. And it's like, no. These are human beings who didn't ask for this, didn't vote for this, didn't make this happen. So what we need to do is basically those in charge need to be replaced by people who actually have lived it and are for the people. And that's something 100%, because we have people that are there to protect corporate interest, which is the majority. And then we have people there that are, I don't know. Like, I look at like Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like that. I'm like, what? Why? Well, I mean, I get it. They have this like worship thing, like they worship a political figure, which is weird to me too, because I don't know, like me growing up, we didn't worship political officials. Like when I started this, when I started getting into activism, I didn't worship anybody in office. I'm like, hey, my taxes pay your salary, so you're supposed to do your job. I don't worship you. I appreciate you if you do well by us, but I will always come back and say, okay, that's great. You did this. Now do this, because it's not finished and fixed until the day comes when it's finished and fixed.
People need to realize that. East Palestine, Ohio, I interviewed some of the people there. It's very similar to the Flint situation. I talked to Ashley and Krista and some people in East Palestine, Ohio, and I'm getting the same responses from them as it was in Flint. The government's let them down. People don't care. They don't believe them. And, even it's just amazing that the government the powers that be didn't learn their lessons.
Well, they did, though. They learned their lesson. They learned from Flint, like, this is how we can poison people and nobody goes to jail. Nobody pays a substantial amount, because I know Norfolk Southern sitting there complaining about it's going to cost her $1 billion. Well, I sat in on meetings down in East Palestine, Ohio, where their insurance covers more than $1 billion. They're fine. They're not coming out they pocket for anything, you know. And also it's like, well, had you fixed these problems when they alerted you to these problems, and had you not, I don't know, nuked an entire town, it wouldn't happen. But then what's going on there is the same thing here, is that the people who are responsible for this, Norfolk Southern, are in charge of the cleanup. The governor down there, Mike DeWine, is sitting back, not declaring a state of emergency, because, and he's asked for a disaster declaration, but we learned in Flint that doesn't apply unless it's not man-made. If it's a natural disaster, then you can get a disaster declaration. If it's man-made, then you can get an emergency declaration like we did in Flint. But then there has to be, a damages inventory in order to even get that from FEMA. To get assistance, you have to do it. And so Mike DeWine refuses. Their state government down there refuses to do a damages inventory, because then that would show, well, the damages, same as in Flint. You know, like, we've had to do it ourselves to go door to door to find the damages, and we still don't know and won't know how much damage we've, ingested and been exposed to, because they blocked us on the testing, the same as East Palestine. And they don't take people seriously. They say it's on your head. They set up a clinic like they did here for the rashes and said, it's in your head. It's just stress. You're a woman. It's just stress, or you're fat, or it's your periods, or this or that, or whatever. So to downplay people and to kill their spirit of fighting back. And also the fox is watching the hen house. That's the whole thing that's happened in Flint. And why Flint's not fixed is that when you allow the responsible party to police themselves, they're not going to say how bad it is, and they're not going to fix it. They're going to find every way to shortcut it so they can save money. And also, it's not even just money with this. Look at the lawsuits. Like, if people saw the actual damage, if the truth was out there, we would get far more than these measly couple of bucks here and there that nobody's seen yet. Because then it would show. And if people were sitting behind bars, and if poisoning people was a crime in Flint, Michigan, then we would get more money back. We would be able to ask and demand more money through these settlements, because, it's an actual crime. However,
that's what I wanted to ask about. And one of the last things before I let you go, the settlements, there's, I don't know what, 600 whatever million. I think I tell people, people aren't going to be getting much at all, right? I mean, it's kind of a joke. The lawyers are going to be getting paid. What do you tell the people of Flint about the whole settlement? I think they realize now the money's not going to take care of anything. It's not going to be what it
you
should
can't bring people back. And I mean, and the thing is I always say, what price tag would you put on our organs, our brains, the people that we've lost, the miscarriages, the loss of fertility, the loss of that's disgusting. These amounts that these responsible parties have offered and are sticking by are pathetic. It just shows they're not sorry, and we could see that with Veolia, because they're like, here, we're going to go ahead and write this check for $25 million, but we didn't do anything. It's not our fault. It's a pretty big, I'm innocent check right there. But at the end of the day, there's 100,000 people that need help, and we need our homes fixed. We need filtration systems, because obviously this government is not going to stop playing with our water. They're not going to replace these pipes without a fight, and it's dragging on to a decade. So yeah, this money's not going to make anybody rich. And even across the attorneys, like our Michigan attorneys got completely bowled over, because when everybody parachuted in, now there's like, what is it? Like a 200 and some attorneys, like that was on my deposition email. It was like really long. And I'm like, that's a lot of attorneys. And some of these folks never did a thing. They just started showing ads. I mean, oh my goodness. So for our Michigan attorneys who stood by us since September 2015, like Michael Pitt and Cynthia Lindsay and Bill Goodman and Julie Hurwitz and all that, I'm like, hey, no amount of money is enough, because you've stayed by us and you've had to go to court like 40 sometimes and file. And, like when I was getting attacked left and right, they were standing up for me. So, there's a lot there. They stood up for the people, but these other attorneys, man, who just parachuted in after it blew up, that's a whole different story. But then you also got to look at programmatic money. Like, everybody talks about the state gave Flint $389 million. I'm like, and the majority went right back to themselves. So again, when the responsible party get their hands on the money, especially the responsible party has complete control over the settlement.
And with the criminal part, it was really funny. It wasn't funny, but Dana Nestle was in Davison for some ribbon cutting event, and one of the Davison high school TV people asked her a question.
Children.
And she turned her face and walked away. So I'm assuming a lot of people in Flint associated with water are not happy with Dana Nestle, probably.
Not at all. Not at all. And I gotta tell you, like, this is something, like, everybody's like, well, is she gonna try to run for governor? What's gonna happen? I'm like, oh, whatever, Lord, you pray that doesn't happen, because we're all in trouble. And people started realizing this, and across the board, all of the environmental folks who got mad at me for going in on her in 2018, for this and that and whatever, because she wasn't answering questions about the Flint water crisis, and we heard rumors she was going to fire the special investigative team, and they were like, she's going to shut down line 5. So shush, shush, shush. And now they're realizing, oh, well, she promised she would, but she sure didn't. She's helping them get a tunnel. So nothing's going to change. And when the lines break, guess what? State of Michigan and our, fishing industry and our tourism gone. But let's make Enbridge happy. So again, it's people have realized, oh yeah, and the way that the criminal charges were done, her tossing them out, refiling them without the financial fraud charges, and in the wrong court, appointing a solicitor general who'd never taken a criminal case to trial. I got screamed at for that when I asked that question. But I'm used to people yelling at me. It's fine. But
Wow.
but doing this, there's no way it wasn't done on purpose. So again, every single piece where the state of Michigan, the EPA, the city government, all these places could be winning for Flint and building up their careers and doing well for Flint, they failed us and dropped the ball on purpose. Well, never picked it up, I guess, in some cases. But then all of a sudden we're seeing things like, our current mayor running for Congress, and then also the Solicitor General getting a promotion up to Deputy AG. I guess failing upward is the new trend for political positions. And
Wow.
yeah.
Would you ever want to run for? They've asked you probably, like, how about
Yeah.
Mayor Melissa Mays?
That's been brought to my attention several times. They're like, well, do that, run for Congress, all this stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness. There would be I would not be liked in a lot of cases, because there would be a lot of house cleaning, and there would be a lot of things that would be changed, and the people would have a say, and this and that. And that's the exact opposite of what they want. So
Exactly.
yeah. Pretty sure they'd throw all the money in the world against me. But yeah, people have asked me, and like, there's people that I do look up to that are pushing and like, hey, you should really think about this. And I'm like, man, I would probably end up sounding like Eric Mays up there yelling at everybody, being like, that this is just about enough. I just, I don't think I could put up with it. I don't think I could put up with the harm that's being caused to people, and I don't know how calm I could keep myself. So
Eric Mays, I got to have Eric on. Eric, good old Eric.
Yep. And it's funny because it's my last name too, so I probably end up just yelling, because I think after time, especially when you're like saying things that are common sense and nobody's listening, and they're doing the exact opposite, and the good work you're trying to do, you can see completely just tossed in the trash. I don't know how people do it. I really don't know how to do it. I had an ulcer once for a while. I don't really prefer I'd get another one, but I'm fairly certain that would happen pretty much immediately. But at the end of the day, I think that regular people are going to have to do this. We're going to have to get up, and we're going to have to start at the local level and just start weeding out the people that are not there for us. And that's the only way we can actually make this change. So,
and get the word out and continue to do this. So I'm going to get going. I appreciate it. I'll have you on again. It's been a while. Keep me updated on everything that's going on. And if you announce your run for office, let me know. I'll have you on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you very much.
Okay. Enjoy your week. And thank you once again.
Thank you.